in watching us live on YouTube and LinkedIn. This is AAA Group. I'm your host, Efua, and today I'm here with Paul Asante. Thank you so much, Paul, for honoring this invitation. So, on the Menstrual Health Hygiene Day, or during the month of May, we embarked on a lot of outreach and conversation or education regarding menstrual health and menstrual health hygiene, because the health side is there and the hygienic side is there, but
Yeah.
together it makes the whole education worthwhile, because you can't do without the other. You can't talk about menstrual health without talking about menstrual hygiene.
Yeah.
And I think the most talked about now, it's the menstrual poverty, which I am
Yeah.
also learning a lot as I've begun to be in the field of educating the younger generation, or our girls in rural areas. So we did, just a background, we did a workshop in Malawi, where we empowered 40 girls on how to make their own reusable pads, and also educate them on the health and the hygiene side of so that they can own their flow. I like to say own their flow, because you've got to own it. It's part of being a woman, and it makes
Yeah.
you fertile as well. It's something that you have to embrace and enjoy.
Yeah.
Um, but understanding it in the right way is how we'll be able to make these women or these girls
Mhm.
confident. And
Yeah.
we're trying to set the stage for everybody understanding what it is, because the thing is, if we're only educating women or girls about it and men do not understand it, we live with men, a brother, a cousin, a male employee, a husband,
Yeah.
a boyfriend. So you can't we all need to be in that space and make it a safe space for,
Yeah.
everybody to understand it, and to render the help during that time of month. Because
Yeah.
thing is, during that time of the month, a lot happens within the female body. So understanding it will also make it easier to go through it. Sometimes we're slow, it's not our fault. Sometimes we need a little bit of attention, not our fault. Other times too, it just means we're in pain and we need more time to complete tasks. If it's to do with the workplace, which is what we're going to discuss today or this evening, because we need policies in place to make it safe, or to make it a positive environment in the workplace for women when it is that time of the month. So today I have Paul Asante, and I'm very happy to have him here. You might be wondering why. That is because even amongst us women, it's a topic that it's not everybody that wants to openly have a conversation about. So to have a guy or a man in the midst of this conversation, I'm intrigued. And Paul, well done, and thank you so much for the support. I saw your post and I was like, okay, maybe just because it's menstrual health hygiene, menstrual health week. And then I saw another post. I was like, okay, he's posting more. He's definitely interested, and he's very in the known. So I came snooping on your page and I realized you actually do a lot with the so it's great to have you, and thanks for honoring our invitation. So without wasting much more time, kindly introduce yourself to our viewers.
Hello, everyone, and good to be part of this discussion. My name is Paul Asante. I'm a procurement specialist by profession, and also a gender focal person with GIZ, that is German Development Corporation. I'm specifically with the energy cluster, where I play a role as a gender focal person, making sure colleagues, both male and female, are well catered for in terms of gender related topics as well. I'm also very passionate about SDG 3 and 5, so I do a lot of advocacy, especially with SDG 5. and I'm happy to share knowledge and also listen to what my audience would also present. I mean, so basically a knowledge sharing session. Yeah, and I'm
Mm.
happy to be here. Thank
Thank,
you.
thank you for this. Thank you. So, um, I'm gonna ask you a question about the work that you do before we go on
Yeah.
the main topic. What what has your work got to do with menstrual health or menstrual hygiene? What is it that you do that makes you very much interested or involved in this topic?
Yeah, so it is a space that you hardly will find men engage in, especially when it comes to menstrual hygiene. It is seen as a taboo, basically. So you hardly even have females talk about, their menstrual periods and then how they go about it because it is something people shy away. Me as a man, I'm very interested in the arts, so I have that passion to be able to um, pursue exactly when it comes to menstrual hygiene, especially our rural community folks, the girls in the rural community schools. How are they coping with menstrual hygiene? They are the least on the ladder, so we would want to find out how they are coping. So every year on my birthday, I go out to a rural community school where we talk to them. I mean, a team, myself, and then we have some health professionals in there and a team of volunteers where we talk about menstrual hygiene, what it entails. We also talk about the health aspect, where if you don't maintain yourself very well, what are the consequences for you as a growing girl and all that. And it's something I find very interesting because over the past 3 years that I've been advocating for proper menstrual hygiene practices in rural community schools. In my jurisdiction, usually where I operate in the rural community school, especially in the eastern region, the Polo South municipality, teenage pregnancy has actually dwindled down. And for me, it's a good thing because I also involve the traditional leaders because they also play a critical role in the community. So I do engage the traditional head authorities, and they are part of my advocacy work. So you can imagine where you have a paramount chief sending a delegation to a community town hall where we have this advocacy, and then you have a sub chief or even the chief themselves
Mm-hmm.
talking about menstrual hygiene. You have the queen mothers also backing me talking about menstrual hygiene. That is the extent to which we want to go when it comes to menstrual hygiene advocacy, especially for rural community girls. And it's something that I'm so much passionate about. The idea is to, if not eliminate teenage pregnancy in the rural community schools, at least bring it to the barest minimum.
Yes, yes, yes.
And not only doing the advocacy, but also providing menstrual products to the deprived in the rural community schools as well. Yeah.
Oh,
Thank
okay.
you.
Wow. That's a lot you're doing. That's a great job. That's a great job. And I like the fact that you're involving the community because a few of the older generation that I've spoken with
Yeah.
regarding this thing. I think recently I asked my mom how or why she didn't really talk about it with me when it was that time.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I shared my story on the first episode where I said I can't remember having a conversation with anyone about it or anybody sitting me down to actually tell me exactly what this is, how to calculate the days, what my body is gonna go through.
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
to I've had to learn it over the years. Um and so when I asked, it's because there's it's a conversation that nobody really had. And like you said, it's that the stigma, it's seen in a very negative light. But I also like the fact that now we're evolving, even in schools, they're encouraging all these organizations and individuals to come in and educate
Yeah.
the girls about it, which is great. It just means that we're on the right track, and with time, it will not be a very shy topic to talk about, but we will be
Yeah.
able to have an open discussion or conversation about it and
Yeah.
learn as individuals. Because even me as a woman, I'm always learning, because the way I feel is different from how someone else feels.
Yeah.
And until or unless you actually understand why and how different we all are,
Yeah.
chances are you probably, this is why people don't open up about it, because of the fact that we don't understand it, and they don't want to be a burden, or
Yeah.
the reception that they get when they try to open up about it. So I
Yeah.
like the fact that, yeah, individuals like yourself and organizations out there are all coming together to, embark on this positive side of the menstrual health and menstrual health hygiene. Chrissy
I
says
like I like
your brain mad.
I like the fact that the old generation barely will talk about um, menstrual hygiene even at home with
Mm,
their with their with their with their children, especially the girls. But we have come a long way.
very long
Society
way.
society is evolving.
Yeah.
So they expect that while these girls go to school, they will be taught how to manage themselves. But I believe that
Mhm.
it starts from home. So if the older generation are actually looking out for their girls, and they probably would see the changes, and they have open discussions not only with the girls but also with the boys at
Yeah.
home, that see, there would come a time where your sister would her physical body will begin to experience some changes. And when it happens like that, you must understand that it is part of the human body. It is how God has created girls, that at a point in time, they would have to menstruate. And when it
Mm,
happens like that, you don't shy away from them, but you provide the necessary support even at home first. Because imagine if they are out there and they are rather picking up a lot from their friends and unknown people, you can just imagine what exactly they are absorbing in there. But if it starts from the older generation at home, then they begin to appreciate what menstrual hygiene is all about, and
it's
how
all
they can
about.
take care of themselves out there as well.
Yes. You just mentioned about understanding, and that's the key word here. Understanding the whole why, women's body is changing. And when you do have the understanding, I think the empathy just follows or flows with it, because now you're in the known. And
Yeah,
when you have to learn from someone else, they'll probably tell you what their body goes through. Yours might be different,
exactly.
so
Yeah,
they don't know. And if they don't know, they can only tell you what you know. So it's great. It's
exactly.
great. Yeah, let's dive straight into the topic
Sure.
of this evening.
Yeah.
So promoting menstrual health and safety in the workplace. Recently, so with my workplace is, I think it was 2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. That is when I did a survey about menstrual stuff, anything to do with menstruation.
Yeah.
Asking questions about, I think it was more or less to find a way to set up a policy for the female. So I'm in the military, and sometimes when we deploy, I know a few, not a few, well, personally, but as in the military wide, I'm
Yeah.
sure there's more. But as in colleagues, close colleagues, where they basically do the insertion. I think there's a name for it, but I can't remember. But there's an insertion to sort of stop the flow. This is so they don't become very uncomfortable whilst we are away. And so what I thought about was, wow, we've got to have to, get to these drastic measures just because we're females in the military. But I had a very it wasn't I wouldn't say bad experience. It was a very uncomfortable experience. One time when we deployed to Kenya, and there were So it's a man's world. It's a man's world, and it was very uncomfortable. I was the only female, and it was the time of the month, and
Yeah,
during all these trainings and stuff, I couldn't excuse myself, and I don't want it to be like I need a special treatment. Why?
yeah,
Because it's not an open topic. I
exactly.
don't want to be embarrassed. I don't want them to look at me differently. So I just tried my possible best. So times where I'm meant to be resting, like everybody is meant to be resting, that's when I would sneak away and try and, manage whatever that was happening. But if that conversation had been open, if people had been aware of it, I didn't have to, act shy or be shy or all of these. So now the importance of menstrual health policies at work. What is your take on that? What do you think?
So, first of all, the most important thing I would start with is that menstruation is something that we can never do away with in society. So, in every organization, I like the fact that you did mention the military. I once worked with the armed forces as well. So, even our
Okay.
own colleagues like to shy away from discussing it
Mm,
sometimes because it's very uncomfortable to talk about, you know, um, menstruation among themselves. But one of the key things that we must understand is that it is part of the human body. There's nothing we can change about that. We are unique in our own ways. So you may probably be a heavy bleeder. You may have somebody who is a very soft bleeder, but then we must appreciate that this is part of the girl child. This is part of every woman.
mm,
Once we understand that, we may be able to come up with policies that are geared towards having an open discussion within every rank and file. That
mm,
yes, we should appreciate our women, we should appreciate our girl child, and understand that this is part of them. So these policies are very. I mean, there are a number of policies we can talk about, but the most important thing is that there has to be a clear cut conversation. There has to be a clear cut communication from management to all employees that yes, we appreciate that yes, menstruation is something everybody doesn't want to talk about because it's very
mm,
uncomfortable. But these are the policies we are coming up with. We want to understand and include everybody, not just the girl child or not just women or female colleagues, but especially our male colleagues at the workplace. How do we also ensure that the females we work with at a point in time will go through this period of their life?
mm,
And how do we offer the necessary support to them? One, we must also ensure that we have an effective period policy, not just about including people, but then it has to be a progressive discussion to say that yes, every organization has come to understand that menstruation actually has been declared worldwide.
mm,
And celebrating 28th Day as a menstrual hygiene day is very important. So companies would have to now include celebrating menstrual hygiene day as part of their gender related activities. So there has to be that clear cut understanding from management to every employee. And again, employees should also not shy away from approaching either their line managers or top management about having open discussions about gender, and especially with menstruation, and also getting getting support from their male colleagues to say that we want management to incorporate this into our everyday work life. But then we need the male colleagues to be able to support us in making sure there are policies that are geared towards including every female colleague. And one of the key things is that not only are we looking at that, but we must also include persons with disabilities. We have some
mm,
organizations where we have persons with disabilities working there. How do we make the environment conducive for them to thrive in when it comes to menstruation? Do we
yeah.
have user friendly washrooms? that persons with disability can be able to access and then even have menstrual products available to them. So these are things that companies can incorporate into their corporate health management policies within organizations to say that yes, we embrace progressive inclusion. We also embrace persons with disability, and we are taking these steps to be able to make sure that we leave no one behind when it comes
Mhm.
to menstrual period for our female colleagues. Yeah.
Wow, wow, great submission. Yeah. So with people of disability or with disability,
Yeah.
I think we tend to forget them in a lot of conversations. And the sad part of it is we try to then make the decisions for them,
Yeah.
thinking we're doing the best we can or from out of sympathy. And they don't need our sympathy because a lot of them are actually very resilient and more
Yeah.
proactive and
Yeah.
stronger than we think. We just see them and we feel like this is what they would need or they need, where
Yeah.
we need them in this conversation for them to say this is what we need, because at the end of the day
Exactly.
they're in that situation and would benefit and would know exactly what is going to
Yeah.
benefit them. So yeah, that's actually very great. That's very true.
And also to add to it that yes, we tend to think for such persons, but the thing
Mm,
is that we must reach out to them and hear them and hear their thoughts, especially
mhm,
on
mhm.
how they would want to be included when it comes to menstrual hygiene management in organizations. We need to seek their input even in drafting corporate health management
Yeah.
plans that becomes a policy that is adopted by the organization with all the support from top management and all that. So I think it is high time we stop thinking about we stop taking decisions for persons with disability, but rather include them in the decision making
Include,
process.
yes.
We finalize it
Yeah.
as well. And not just persons with disability, but again with every other colleague or every other employee in the organization. We should include them right from the policy draft stage. We discuss all the challenges, the hurdles we are likely to encounter. Do we even have national laws on such decisions we want to take? If there are national laws on workplace environment and all that, how do we now infuse it into our local policies that we want to have in the organization? So we must have an inclusive discussions with all the stakeholders. Then we can firm up this is the blueprint that we want to now adopt for the organization. At the end of the day, we are looking for good practice so that other organizations can follow suit as well.
Yes, yes, yes. That's this conversation. We can go round and round, around it. um, you see, the thing is, I think we sort of tend to cut corners. In
Yeah,
I know even if it's not just menstrual health, right? There are other policies that are out there where you can just tell these policies are not fit for purpose because the stakeholders, the real people that are going to be affected with this
yeah,
policy, they've not been consulted or their voice have not been included. And so we have this thing sat there and it makes no sense and it's not
yeah,
effective. So yeah,
yeah,
including everybody, or at least getting some sort of representative, so male, female, people with or persons with disability, um, the community as well.
yeah,
Um, the even with people in higher authority as well. So because we need sometimes, I think we was it last week when we had this conversation as to, so I'll give you an example what I'm trying to say so that makes sense. When Christy was trying to get all the things set up, we started having setbacks, and these setbacks were from um, the head teachers or the mistress. Don't know
Yeah.
what they call. Yeah. So I was like, hey, how? Why? You feel they should actually be part of the conversation. They should
Exactly.
be organizing it. They're not organizing it, and someone comes in, or individuals, organization
And
comes
yeah,
to
you have to
organize
let
it,
the
and
challenges and
yeah.
difficulties. Yeah.
So
So
yeah. Mm-hmm.
sorry, sorry. Let me share a bit of experience with mine as well in Ghana, what I went through. So I did a research and I noticed that the key stakeholders with my target area, especially the rural community schools, you would want to discuss it with the traditional authorities because they wield so much power in there. You would also want to find out from the school itself whether they've ever had such a talk on menstrual period and all that. How are the kids managing? What are the age brackets of the girls in school? How many girls are you looking at? How many boys are you looking at? The reason is that the boys, definitely will not benefit from the sanitary pads, but then you need to also complement it with maybe let's say learning material so they don't feel left out with the inclusion and all that. Yeah. Then you may want to now find out is Ghana Education Service actually doing their work when it comes to reaching out to communities and advocating that yes, menstrual hygiene should be part of, let's say, a 30 minutes presentation during assembly, or probably before the end of lectures, they do a 30 minutes presentation by their teacher, female teacher, to demonstrate some of the challenges they are likely to go through, and then how they can overcome or mitigate some of these challenges. So having sat down with all these things, like in my first outreach, I also encountered the same thing where like it's not common for a man to reach out to us and then
Yeah.
to do menstrual hygiene, and all that. So, but I still stood my grounds, and definitely the stakeholders were very important for me. So I started with the traditional authorities and I got their backing. I got a Queen Mother also backing the whole traditional or bombing traditional area. I got them involved. Then I had to reach out to the Ghana Education Service. I also had to reach out on the Commission for Civic Education because then they would probably also go out to the community to find out or probably engage the young girls in the community. And then I also spoke to some health practitioners within the area that I want to go to. And this, yes, it's a very good thing, but they actually haven't had time, to follow up with such discussions because how will the school take it? Because then it's something that they are just coming through and all that. But I believe that there should be a clear-cut information. The communication channel is what is very important, and how you communicate it out there to the community that you want to engage in. I believe that for me, I had to let them understand the benefits of advocating for menstrual hygiene to these young girls. We want to reduce teenage pregnancy. Coming from the backdrop that we've had taxes on menstrual products in Ghana here, it's become
Yeah.
very expensive, become very, very expensive for the young girls to even afford it. Now, in order not for unscrupulous men to take advantage of these young community girls just because of 5 cedi or 10 cedi sanitary pad, they get their education truncated because they would definitely will get pregnant and all that. So taking it upon myself to engage these stakeholders was one thing that also worked for me. And then the churches also play a key important role. So I also had to involve the church in there, to also talk about the side effects or the social vices, what the Bible abhors and all that, to psych the students up that yes, there are a lot of things that go into these things. So if you're not careful, you may find yourself wanting. And it worked for me, and the community embraced it. So every year when I go out there, they are so welcoming and gradually, apart from the sanitary pads that I give out to students as well, we also would add some learning materials, that depicts menstrual hygiene, how to take care of yourself and all that. If you don't have sanitary pads, what you can use as alternative, very hygienic alternatives that you can use that are very sustainable and will not harm the environment, So it boils down to how community accepts that menstrual hygiene is something we can never do away with in our society. Yes, though we may not have policies incorporated in our educational systems that says that menstrual hygiene, for instance, schools should be able to provide um, accessible areas in terms of washrooms. Also, bearing in mind that we have persons with disabilities who also attend such schools in our communities, we need to forget about them. Even the infrastructure development of the community in terms of the schools and even our workplaces, do we even involve stakeholders to say that yes, we're putting up an office space and we need to include very clean, decent washrooms. That would also have places for menstrual hygiene and in terms of washrooms where people can go shower, and then get to their locker rooms and probably change themselves or something like that. Yes. So I believe that the traditional authorities should also embrace menstrual hygiene. It has come to stay in Ghana
Mhm.
here. And, it is something that we can never do away with. The church should also play a key role when it comes to some of these policies, and then just make their voice heard so that at least organize, because we have Christian schools all over the country. Yes. So the church and most of these Christian schools are managed by various churches and then other Islamic schools as well. They must embrace it and make sure that it is inculcated even into their curriculum or into their activities. So maybe one Friday they organize all the students into the assembly hall and then have a 30-minute or 45-minute session educating the students, in there. So we have a long way to go, but I believe that the advocacy we have started, including your good self, yes, we will definitely will get there at the end of the day. And I think that we should be able to fight on. I know there will be hurdles that would come, but we should be able to fight on and then let them understand that yes, we are in a progressive world now, and we all want to make sure we accomplish the SDG goals, especially for SDG number 5 that talks about gender equality
Yes.
and all. Yes, empowering women and girls. Yeah,
Wow. Great submission. Yes. Very, very great submission. I think with the key stakeholders, like it's all our problem.
yeah,
Yeah, it's not just the girl child, it's ours. Because at the end of the day, if you don't take care of them and teach them well and also educate ourselves as well, it's only gonna get worse. And the last thing we want is it getting worse, because it will take more resources, leaving that problem, than if you try to find solutions to it.
yeah,
Because imagine having to deal with teenage pregnancy, all the resources you have to involve in the girl child as well, and as a community, you understand.
yeah,
Whereas if we're to educate them from now, for them to prevent that scenario, a great future is ahead of them. How confident they are is also ahead of them,
yeah,
and the fact that they should know, or they can embody that belief and confidence that when they're having a menses is not a bad thing. It only makes us live in a healthy
yeah,
community, and we will benefit from it as well. So it's a no-brainer. But like you said, you started the advocacy, and I think we mentioned this from the beginning, that we shouldn't just wait till the 28th of May, or maybe the month
exactly.
of May.
Yeah,
It should be ongoing. So again, this is why we're having this Pardon me. This is why we're having this conversation, and also using so from with AAA, we every initiative that we embark on, we look at the educational side of it. Reason being, if people do not understand one why you're doing something or why what you're doing, it becomes very difficult for them to come on
Difficult,
board.
yeah.
Yeah, and for you to even make the impact that you're looking
Yeah.
to embark on. So education, SDG 4, is very, very important to us. And education does not necessarily mean schooling where you're sat in a formal classroom. We all need education. We all need
Yeah.
effective education, and to be able to, be um, productive and help the community that we're in. So till the end of June, we will having a lot of these webinars to hear from guests, to talk about, the to get an understanding of what it means to them as well, and for us to also share ideas on what we think would help moving forward. So yeah, it's a great discussion that I intrigue everyone, especially individuals and organizations, to get involved, because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it is all our problem, and we're all part of the solution as well. So let us all get involved and help organizations, or if you're an individual, the little way that you can be part of. Don't wait, do it, even if it's just your cousin or your colleague. Understand the
Yeah.
whole process, understand the topic, and then be able
Yeah.
to be a solution to them, and also,
Yeah.
yeah, start to change the narrative around the community or the area or the home that you're in. If you're a guy and you have a sister, try and understand, just have a random conversation with her. It might be awkward from the beginning, depending on the kind of family that you're coming
Yeah.
from, or even your mom. And then, as you start these conversations, you'll
Yeah.
be surprised that as time goes on, they will actually come on board. And then
Yeah.
this is how it all starts. So it doesn't actually have to be outside. You can start from your home. You can start with your girlfriend or your wife, your daughter. Depending on the
Yeah.
environment that it's conducive for you to have these conversations. Okay, so Andrew has got a point here. What did he say? Let me just read it out. Kindly highlight a bit about this menstrual health and safety in regards to sexual norms. A lot of myths surrounding sexual intercourse during menses. However, I think there is a hygienic explanation as to why sexual activity could be prohibited during this period. This,
Okay.
I
So
think, this is enough for one to guide behavior patterns amidst sexual active individuals. Thank you. I think I'll leave it to you as a guy, and then I'll give my female perspective as well.
yeah. So I mean, it's just something that happens once every month. I mean, every female would menstruate once a month, and it's part of how God has created them. And it's just it's bringing out waste products kind of thing. Let me just use my words advisedly here. So bringing out waste within a specific time frame, and as human as we are, I'm not sure if waste is coming out. That is the time we may want to now engage in extra activities, extra sexual activities. It is part of the system that it has to come out, and then it revolves around again. So, and these things would come with a number of discomforts. You get it. So once you have a female who begins to show signs of feeling unwell, they feel a bit moody, they are irritated at the slightest confrontation, either even the slightest question being asked, they feel agitated or they feel irritated. We must understand that they go through this within a short period. And I believe that if you have a female partner or your wife is menstruating, I believe that you just have to respect that space, that it is unhygienic because they are bringing out, something that is not clean, and it's not a time where you want to now engage in sexual activity with them. I mean, they are just menstruating for about a period of 5 to 6 days, and you can't be able to control yourself and all that. It has medical implications when a lady is menstruating and you now want to have sexual intercourse with them and all that. It has its own health implications. But I believe that that is not a time that we now want to show how active we are sexually, but then we want to now show support to our female colleagues, to our wives, our partners, and let them understand that this is a period where you feel very uncomfortable, you feel very moody, you feel, depending on how heavy, or yeah, depending on each and every woman, some of them are very, they bleed very heavily and all that, which means that they may feel very weak and all that. So how then can you be even be supportive of them at home? Maybe something that you even want to help with the cooking, washing of dishes and all that. And I believe that we must, in terms of our sexual activeness, we must be able to control it when it gets to that particular time. It is what it is. I mean, it is not negotiable. Yes, you just have to allow that 5 to 6 days to let them bring out the waste, and then understand that holding yourself and then supporting them in that particular instance is what they need. You get it. I believe that the medical implications of even forcing yourself on your wife or your partner during that time is very uncomfortable. It has a number of health implications that you may probably not see immediately, but the aftermath of it, it's that it can have consequences with their reproductive system. So I believe that during that stage, we must be very supportive and not be sexually active to our partners during that period. And then also to our female colleagues is also very important that to educate our male colleagues that I'm going through this at this particular stage, and it is a reason why I have to bring out this excess, kind of unclean, blood, and that's not a time where we have to engage in sexual activity. But I need your support to be able to go through this painful stage that I'm going through now. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Right. Afrakuma, you've come at a very interesting point in the conversation. So I'm also going to welcome you. Please introduce yourself to our listeners, and then I will throw the question for you to answer.
Hi,
Hello.
good evening. How are
Hey,
you?
I'm great. You?
I'm doing well. I'm sorry for coming in late.
No
I've had
problem.
a very conflicting schedule today. I'm so sorry. Okay, so thank you everyone. My name is Afrakuma. I am the founder of the Orange Girls Foundation. We are focused on girls' development, particularly menstrual health and period poverty. So I'm excited to be here today. I enjoyed his submission, what he said a few minutes ago. I really enjoyed it. And I was really excited. It's coming from a man. So at last we've gotten there. We've gotten there. The fight is done. We can rest.
Yes. Right. So there's a question. There's a question that we've heard from the male perspective. Now I would want to hear the female perspective. And thanks very much, Paul, for that
Okay.
that that answer. You've touched on different bases with the fact that it's only a few days in the month. The one thing that the woman at this point is really expecting is something different to a sexual activity. And Yeah, it's great coming from a guy. It's good to hear it from a guy that this is the time you need to maybe show or help out in terms of the little things that you can do around just to give them a break. So let's hear from you, Afrakuma. So I'm going to read a question again in case you missed it. Hello, Afrakuma, you're around. I think we've lost her. Right. So
Yeah, we should stop here.
um, let me start it this way. So I wouldn't say it's something dirty that is coming or impure. The thing is, we menstruate or menstruation happens because there's no baby at this time, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So the lining of our womb is thinning out, and
yeah,
that is the form or the way that it needs to come out. Now, if
yeah,
it doesn't come out, it means it's going to cause another problem, and that
yeah,
hence why some women develop fibroid is one of the reasons fibroids
yeah,
and other health stuff happens. So aside what your body is going through, right? uh, the thing is, I've also seen women that do not mind, but as to if they really don't mind is the case, or they just don't want any confrontation, or they want there to be peace, or it depends how your relationship is. But I think from my perspective as a woman, or as female, that is not the time that's not the time I want any of these things. It's the
yeah,
time that I think I would appreciate tenderness, you know a bit of patience or extra patience, more pampering, and also, yeah, the last thing, because the thing is, it's very uncomfortable. One, you're depending on even the country that you're in, you're having to always make sure you're not soiling yourself,
yeah,
so having this activity at this time, it's very uncomfortable for a female, from a female perspective, regardless of how and where. It's very uncomfortable. So we would, at the end of the day, we actually want it to be over and done with, let alone add more stress to it. So now, as a man, or as a guy that we're with, we want you to have the understanding and not having to put us in that situation, or yeah, in that scenario where we have to choose
that extra
between.
mental torture.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So we might not have that conversation, but it doesn't mean it's okay. You understand?
yeah,
And like you said, um, it's only a few days in the month, and as a man who really appreciates your woman, it's only fair that you more or less understand the situation, and um, not really having
yeah.
to put us into that sort of
Just 6 to 7 days of out of 30 working days.
mhm, mhm,
Yeah, I believe
exactly.
that men should also respect the female body, or they should respect the body of their partners.
Mhm,
And as you run, that is not the time where you want to put them through mental torture and all that. But I believe that you also need, as men, we need to also appreciate the fact that that is the nature of their body, and we must respect that body and what they are going through, and not
yes.
contribute to the pain,
Mm,
because some would have cramps a few days to their menses, and it can be so painful. Um, in your case, where maybe you are deployed to a battlefield, and you probably are experiencing cramps a few days to your menses, and you're on the front line and you feel very, very uncomfortable, and then probably, or let's say yes, you are discharged and you go home, and just as you get home, you're feeling very uncomfortable, and you have your partner making advances. This is what they want and all that. I believe that as males, we also need to appreciate that this is the time where we must show a lot of love, a lot of care to our partners, to our female colleagues, and it comes with a whole world on its own in terms of the mood
Yeah.
swings and all
The
the
hormones are not.
slightest thing can trigger,
Yeah.
you know. Yes, it comes with its
Yeah.
own
So
mood swings and all that. So it's a matter of
yeah.
appreciating them and then letting them be within that 5 to 6, 7 working days. Yeah.
Yeah. So Andrew, to actually answer your question in its entirety, we'll take it. I'll try and summarize what Paul and myself have said from a man's perspective and a female perspective. So I'll start it off like this: as a guy, right, and as a person in a relationship, have an open conversation with your woman. How do you feel about this? Are you okay? And be ready to understand, listen to understand, right? And truly understand what your woman really feels. If she's okay with it, by all means, because it's the consent. But again, from a woman's perspective, um, it is something that that is very uncomfortable. So having to put a woman in that situation is not really a great thing. But again, having that open discussion could help you in making these decisions, and both of you can come to a sort of agreement, or yeah, a sort of agreement. The health risk is during that time you're open to a lot of infections. Hence
Yeah.
why we talk about the hygiene. Now, wanting to have this sexual activity with your woman could cause you and the woman to have a lot of infections, depending on your surroundings. So that is one. Two, that blood that is coming does not need to be pushed back in any way, shape, or form. It needs to just have time to flow. You don't want to add any extra, you know, pathogens. I believe that is the word. If it's not,
Yeah.
I apologize. But I believe that is the word. Back in the bloodstream. That's not what you want. And also, this is why we're talking about menstrual hygiene. That time of the month, some of the women, depending on how heavy you flow, they're changing 3, 4 times in a day. The last thing we want is having to engage in this activity that's going to cause more messiness. It's very
Yeah.
uncomfortable. And as Paul has said, it causes discomfort with the cramps, the emotional fluctuations here and there. It's a lot to then have to, you know, you won't enjoy it. It's not something you'd enjoy. And now
Yeah.
having to also put a woman into that emotional stress of having to satisfy you, it's also not really something you want to do. So, in its entirety, what we're saying is control yourself. Be able to control yourself. This is a way or the time where you find another ways or other means of still being intimate, but not necessarily in that
Yeah.
sexual openness that we all know. The penetration is a bit too much during that time of the month. So what I would say is have an open discussion with your partner. Be mindful of the infections and the extra stress you probably might be putting her through, and then educate yourself on ways and means where you can still have that intimacy during that few days. There's a lot of activities that you can have. It's not always about sex. So during that few days in a month, you can think or make of or find other ways where you and your partner can still be close enough not to be distant or apart during that time. So that's my submission and Paul's one in in summary. So I don't know
Yeah.
if Paul, if you have anything else to say. Thanks for that.
But so
For that
there was this other day I came to work and I had to ask some of my female colleagues, that, well, I don't know when your period is coming, but the question I would like to ask is, how can I make your life easier today for you? Is there any way I can make your life easier for you today at the workplace if you are menstruated? And they were like, "Oh, gender focal person, you are talking." And yes, I like to make your lives easier for you at the workplace, especially at that time of the month where you are confronted with a number of a number of challenges. You're moody, you feel very weak, and all that. So the question was, how can I make your life easier? So in the same way, when you can also equally ask your partners, your wives, how can I make your life easier? And still be intimate with them, not necessarily having a sexual intercourse, but then how can I make your life easier and still be intimate with them as well? Yeah. Thank you.
right, thank you. Afakuma, I think you're back. We
Hi,
lost you.
yeah, sorry. Yes,
No
sorry, my
problem.
network. How,
Did
how
you
to make our life easier? Send us
did you
Momo.
get the question?
Buy
So
ice cream.
there's a question. There's the question about sexual
Okay.
activities during menstrual
Menstrual, yeah,
cycle.
yes,
And we've heard from a male's perspective, which is Paul, and then from a female, I also did from my side, but I don't know how or what you also think of
yeah,
the whole. Yeah, there's a lot of myths. Okay, so we didn't actually. Yeah, the myth surrounding it. Um,
yeah.
we could talk about that as well. So actually, could you tackle the myths? Because I don't think myself or Paul mentioned that. So if you can tackle the myths
Okay,
surrounding,
okay,
yeah.
sure. Before I answer my question, I think I have answer for Paul. So he was asking how he can make our lives easier during that time of
Mm.
the month. I said you send us Momo, but send us Momo. That was by the way. Okay, so with regards to that, for it depends on the person, and I don't actually ascribe to sex during menstruation.
Hello, Fakuma, you with us? I think we probably have lost her again.
She's still on.
She's still
Maybe
online, but
she's
yeah, it's just
having
the voice.
difficulty.
Yeah,
Maybe if she could position herself a bit better, um, she probably will get through with the network. Yeah.
yeah. I think now she's back. Anyway, yeah. So I think the myth of all of this whole thing stems from not just the sexual side of it. It is more or less from the fact that society sees menstruation as dirty, impure, um, all these negative conceptions about it. So it's basically to deter you. But like you said, Andrew, there is a better explanation to this. There's
Yeah.
the discomfort is there. So yeah, the myth is saying that, like I was saying at the beginning, that I've spoken to few older generations, and actually in Syria. I might be wrong with the countries, but in one of these third world countries or developing countries, I think it's in Egypt or Morocco. Okay, I'm not mentioning too many countries. Let me get straight to the point. Where girls are not allowed to shower or bath during their menstrual, I don't know how they survive. I think I shower more during that time than on a normal day if it's not work. And sometimes if I can get the chance to shower during work, which is lunchtime, and there is that um, facility, I will go shower before I change because it makes me feel um, more confident, I would say.
Yeah.
I feel more refreshed, and I feel like I've been able to, like, the hygiene side of it, I feel more cleaner, let me put it that way, because even when you cut yourself and you bleed, it's very uncomfortable. So imagine
Very uncomfortable.
uncontrollable ones where you got no control over it. You can't even stop it. It needs to stop in its own time. So the myth stems from all these, it's unclean. So if something is unclean, the last thing you want is to have sex with such an unclean thing. And also, I think back in the days as well, you would have women being orchestrated from community or society, so those are the sort of myths. It's just to put you off being around
Yeah.
your woman at that time. But to relate it to the sexual bit, you were not allowed to have sexual intercourse with a female during that time back in the days. But there is more to that than just it being unclean and all of these negative connotations attached to menstrual hygiene. The thing is, it's very uncomfortable. It's not help. It's it's not hygienic from our perspective, and even from a man's perspective as well, because you don't know what you're taking in or what you're releasing during that time, because the pelvis is open at that, not the pelvis, the cervical cancer, so the cervix. What am I talking
Service, yes, is
about?
open.
The
Yes, it's
cervix is
open.
open, yeah.
Yeah.
And the last thing you want is these sort of infections, and
You
again,
become very prone to
you
all,
get prone to infection, so you're concentrating on your hygiene practices. So it's just not the right time, and this is why those myths, it's just like so when I remember when I was with my grandma and I was singing while I was having a shower, and then he goes, "Don't sing, if not somebody will die." And it's like, I've been singing, nobody's dead. But it's not that somebody's gonna die. It's just the fact that you might end up with soap in your mouth, the lather. Yeah, it's like concentrate on what you're doing and come out. That's what it is. But they will say all these myths and
so
stuff just to deter you,
if you want to put
from doing
it
it.
like cultural norms,
Mm.
towards, our older generation make the kind of things they will say about it, like, yes, even when you are menstruating, you don't go to the kitchen,
Yeah.
and when you're menstruating, you don't go to the palace. So society has, in terms of there are some cultural practices that they strictly would want to enforce when it comes to women that are menstruating, because they feel that, let me use my words advisedly here, like, you're unclean. So if you're
Mm-hmm.
unclean, why would you want to go to the kitchen to probably prepare meals? Why would you want to go to the palace where it's considered to be a sacred place because you're unclean and you're going before a traditional authority and all that? In some places, you're even prevented from going to church, you're even prevented from going to the
Yeah.
mosques because you are seen as unclean. So these are some of the cultural, the myths surrounding it. But we've come in modern days now. I mean, we are breaking the barriers when it comes to some of these myths surrounding menstruation and all that. It all boils down to education. It has to be there, the quality of education we churn out when it comes to menstrual hygiene, and the fact that we also need to incorporate education, which is very key in our everyday lives, not just in the classroom, but even at home. We need to psych our children up, especially the girl child.
Mm,
Wherever we find the opportunity, we must be able to educate. And for men, I feel that it is also important that we educate ourselves when it comes to menstrual hygiene and
mhm.
all that, so we can better understand and appreciate our female colleagues or our women or the girl child. When is that time of the month? You get it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Andrew, thank you so much. That's actually a great question. It wasn't part of the discussion, but yeah, we
Yeah.
appreciate your, yeah, it's open another conversation or forum for us to even consider talking about it, because I don't think, well, I don't think it's a conversation that partners have as to how do you feel, when during that time of the month, how do you feel about sexual intercourse, or so yeah, it's a great question. It's actually a great question. I've learned a lot from that submission, so thank you. Yeah, so if you're still here with us, listening to us, is Afakuma back with us? Let me see. I'm trying to answer questions, and yeah, she is. Hello. Oh, she's gone again.
Yeah, I think she's back.
Hello. Hello, Fakuma. We lost you again. Yes, rather unfortunate. Today is not her day with the network. Yeah, so we're talking about policies, like how implementing support in the workplace. So we've been talking about who to get involved, how to get it started, and we've had a great submission from our guest Paul Asante, who's doing a lot as an individual to help girls in rural areas in terms of providing menstrual health products and education to them regarding that time of the month. Something that we barely talk about, even as females. It's something that we more or less find it very uncomfortable to talk about, let alone to get men involved. So to have Paul here and hearing from a male's perspective has been eye-opening, and I love the fact that he is very knowledgeable about it. He's basically invested a lot of time to understand this conversation. So it's great to have you once again, Paul. So
Thank you.
creating the supportive environment.
Yeah.
How do we create a supportive environment for employees during that time of the month? What sort of, yeah, what sort
Okay,
of
so let me,
support do
yeah. So one of the key things I would talk about again is information flow. So for companies, they could have a dedicated Teams channel,
you?
gender related, where they will post regularly information about menstrual hygiene. So colleagues there can access the Teams channel and then get acquainted with information, and also on their intranets, some information sessions on the menstrual hygiene management and all that can be placed on the company's intranets, which can be accessible all times, or basically a gender um, um, policy, on a company's intranet or Teams channel, where they have various discussions on corporate health management, and then would have to narrow down to menstrual hygiene, not necessarily menstrual hygiene, but anything corporate health management. So menstrual hygiene can be part, stress management, healthy living, eating well, and all those things. But the emphasis is that we hardly talk about menstruation. So then on the
Mhm.
company's intranet, they could have promotional videos from colleagues, female colleagues, and even the male colleagues, saying they support menstrual hygiene advocacy and they are here to support their female colleagues and all that. Management could also make sure that we have emergency sanitary pads. So
Mhm.
I'll take my company as an example. I work with GIZ, German Development Corporation, and currently we are piloting emergency provision of emergency sanitary pads and dispensers in our female washrooms.
Yeah.
It has, yes, so it is something that we feel should be a best practice for almost every organization. So it's just an emergency sanitary pad. So then you get to work, and all of a sudden, maybe you are stressed out, and then your menses begins to come.
Mhm.
You just go grab your swipe card, go to the female washroom, you swipe on the dispenser, and then your sanitary pad, comes out, and then you can easily have access to it as well. So these are some of the things that we are doing to be able to make sure that our female colleagues are well included in terms of their health management and all that, and then making sure that sanitary products are well accessible, not just colleagues, but at least persons with disability can also have ready access as well. And in this way, I would also encourage a number of organizations, both private and public, to make sure that menstrual products are ready accessible in their washrooms, to be able to support their female colleagues as well. The reason that it has to be an emergency sanitary pad. I mean, females are always conscious to see that they don't soil their dress. Sometimes it takes another female colleague to prompt another person that, oh, I think you soiled your dress. Sometimes the kind of work environments we find ourselves in can trigger,
Yeah.
your menses all of a sudden, not necessarily on your due date, even if you have a menstrual app on your phone. It will interest you to know. I have a flow app on my phone. You know, where I mean I use it for educational purposes. That yes,
That's wow.
as male colleagues, if you have a partner, you should be able to track your partner's flow and tell them that your menses is coming up in a few days. Make sure you have
Wow.
adequate sanitary pads in your handbag to the office so you don't find yourself wanting. These are things that we can, tell management that I feel that let's provide emergency sanitary pads in our female washrooms, with the dispensers and all that, as a way of checks and balances so that people don't abuse whatever privileges that are there. The
Yeah.
purpose is to serve as an emergency sanitary pad. Yes, just emergency. So you may have your regular sanitary pad in your bag. You may come to the office. You may have used it. Now the washrooms are there where you have these emergency sanitary pads or products, and then the dispensers. You just swipe your card or you just drop in a coin, and then it dispenses the sanitary product or the tampon, and then you go to the washroom and then sort yourself out as well.
Wow.
I feel that organizations should take a cue from what we are doing and then also provide how do you call it, menstrual products in their female washrooms. And in all this, also include persons with disabilities so that they can easily and readily access these products and also benefit from that. Not just that, you may also have in walk-in visitors who may come into your company's premises to transact business, and sometimes the unfortunate would have to happen. And once you have these things, it serves as a relief to such visitors or stakeholders who come to our premises for discussions, and probably they find themselves wanting with um, sudden menstruation, and they can readily have access to these products in the
Mm.
washrooms. Yes. And then also in our basic schools
Yes.
in the rural communities, they are the least on the ladder. So I would also encourage Ghana Health Service, as part of their procurement plans for basic schools and the rest, to also try and include menstrual products, or even reach out to organizations or well minded individuals to be able to provide some of these things for girls in rural communities to be able to access them. Let us not forget that in Ghana here, sanitary pads are taxed. They are classified as luxury products.
Luxury.
And this is where I have an issue with, because how then do you determine that this sanitary pad that is going to aid somebody in distress is a luxury
It's a
product?
luxury.
So yes, and once it's a luxury product, it becomes expensive for even people to procure. So they may even look at, apart from the sanitary pad, are there other alternatives that I can use to? Now,
Mhm.
in the quest to use such alternatives, we may also invite in health implications also onto ourselves. So the call will be to the appropriate institutions or the appropriate quarters of the government to have a second look on the taxes on sanitary products to take it off. So at least we have companies that if they want to produce it with sustainable products and all that, it serves as a relief onto manufacturers, and then also onto the girl, child, or the woman who wants to go to a shop in a small corner somewhere by the street and get menstrual products to use. And
Products.
so
Yes.
it is no fault of theirs that they have to
You with
menstruate.
us today. Your network doesn't want you to speak at all.
Yeah, it is no fault of theirs that women have to menstruate. But again, we have to ensure that we provide the necessary infrastructure for them to make their lives easier, especially in the rural communities where access to clean water and standard washrooms are a challenge. We can call on corporate organizations, make sure we have clean water, and then even the washroom to enable these girls, have proper people where they can change themselves and all that. I think that we should advocate more on making sure that sanitary products and dispensers are part of the structures that we put up in our rural
Mhm.
communities, for example, the basic schools, and even our offices in our rural areas where access to clean water and even washrooms are a challenge. So
Yes.
then it is important that stakeholders or relevant regulatory bodies will have to ensure. And once it becomes a national policy, becomes a law, that every building in Ghana here should have emergency sanitary pads or dispensers. It means that yes, we are actually um, seeing to the fulfillment of some of these SDG goals, especially number 5, and also ensure that yes, we are actually setting up the best practice, best corporate practices when it comes to providing menstrual products again to the underprivileged. And then also to make sure that HR also imbibes into maybe employee handbooks that
Mhm.
yes, we have
Okay.
these facilities available. Some people when it comes to menstruation, it comes with its own psychological issues. So then
Yeah.
we have counseling sessions where they can go to what we call the employee assistance programs, where they can reach out to such psychologists or health professionals for the needed counseling, to be able to steer them through that 5 days or 7 days that they have to go through. Now, one other thing is that we can also have what we call the period leave.
Mm.
So then again, every organization would have to ensure that as much as we want to make lives comfortable for every human being, both sexes, it is important that women are naturally special, and we must create the environment and then make sure that the facilities are there to support them. So period leave can be instituted as part of HR policies. It's just for a few days, and then make sure that whilst they are away, they have stand in to be able to carry on the work so that work doesn't stall and it doesn't bring implementation of organizational processes to a standstill. So these are some of the things that we can. And then even have proper shower rooms,
Shower.
in
Yes.
there to that. Yes, if you are menstruating and you feel you need to take a quick shower, medically it's advised that even when women are menstruating, they take about you change your pads every 4 to 6 hours. That requires that maybe you just need to take a shower or something like that. So we have shower rooms in organizations. Then they can quickly just take a shower and then freshen up and then get back to their work. These things actually are comforting to
Mm-hmm.
employees when they see such things, when they have such facilities and in there. And then in some cases where you can have workout rooms because then you may need to just maybe exercise a little bit to try and then get yourself in tune to. So companies may want to look at providing the needed facilities to make life very comfortable when it comes to addressing menstruation and all that. And then with regards to period poverty, we have to make sure sanitary products are affordable to the girl child, especially in the rural communities, because these are people that are least thought about and places where you can have teenage pregnancy on the rise. So once we have these products readily accessible to them, I mean, it's very important that they can go a long way. Just a bit of an example, when we celebrated um, Menstrual Hygiene Day on 28th of May, just about I think about a week or two, yeah, about a week ago, my colleagues together with other national business within the GIZ, decided to contribute voluntarily, and then we procured sanitary pads, approximately about 1,700 pieces to a
Wow.
one school for the blind, and there were about 100 girls. So inversely, each girl would have about 17 packs, and that is provision for more than a year's supply, assuming each girl is using one sanitary pad averagely per month, and maybe you don't have a heavy bleeder, and they're able to use one sanitary pad. 17 pads, it's approximately more than a year's supply. So these are things that we can encourage colleagues to come together and then reach out to people in society that are left out. That's yes, you'll be contributing your quota and help address these challenges when it comes to access to menstrual products and the rest. Yeah, thank
Wow.
you.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. That is a great submission all around, from covering all angles. Let me say, Afakuma, are you with us? I want you to talk before your network goes again. No. Yeah, she's gone again. Even though she's still here, unless you've you've muted yourself, so you might have to unmute. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, we're coming to the end of our um conversation. Paul has actually said a lot of good stuff, and again, I'm still very amazed to hear it. I think it's because we don't normally have this conversation with male or men, and to have a man know so much about it and even actively being part of the solution is very admirable and it's very commendable. And thank you for being on our side. Thank you for fighting our corner. We need more men like you to join
Thank you.
the
You have a man who advocates for menstrual hygiene. So
I know, right?
yes, we are in the
No, it's very admirable. I've told you that when I saw your post, I was like, okay, it's menstrual health week. Go like it, nice. And then I realized, no, you're not just posting. You're actually like very into it. Sometimes people post because
yeah,
it's just that time of month or that time
yeah,
of having
yeah,
that conversation. So they're also using their platform. But
yeah,
when I read your post, I said, no, this is not just a person posting. This is a person who is well vested in it and has an interest in this conversation. So hence why I reached out. I saw a few guys with posts, but I didn't reach out because
Yeah.
I felt it's 28th at that
Yeah.
time where everybody is also trying to support. But I realized there's more to your post than just posting sake, which is great. And listening to you, having you here, it's been eye opening, and I'm sure there's more men like you out there. Is finding them and also them being bold enough to come out. I
Yeah.
do know a few people who behind closed doors will have this conversation and they're very passionate. But come and let's have this conversation in the open is like, ah, thanks, I'm okay. So to have you come on, or in the open and have this conversation, it's great. Thank you so much. And I like your submission on involving or not forgetting people with disability. I really, it's something that I've taken on board, and
In
Triple
fact,
A
this year is one of my KPIs to do, personally,
really good.
So
It's really
yes, in terms of my personal advocacy,
mm,
to concentrate on persons with disability
it's a,
this year.
yes, it's
Because
yeah.
sometimes they feel left out in all the goodies,
Yeah.
and all that
And
stuff.
as a SDG advocate, I mean,
Yeah,
nobody being or no persons being left out. It's also
yeah,
part of the 17 Sustainable Development
yeah,
Goals.
yeah,
So yeah, it's great, and it's something that, like I said, we as AAA, we're much open for collaborations and
sure,
partnerships or sponsorships in terms of things that aligns with our vision. And
sure,
this basically does um, fit very well in our vision and mission, to empower every individual to live a fulfilling life. And owning your flow is part of living a fulfilling life. So thank you very much, Paul. Afakuma, we're about to round up, so I'm going to come back to you again and see if you have any final words. No, if she still can't hear you. So yeah, so Paul, give us your final words. There's another event with you with Emily. So it was good to see or to have two men on the panel on that
yeah.
discussion. I will just be quiet and listen and hear it. Yes.
Yeah, so my final words will be that let's have an attitudinal change towards our
Mhm.
female colleagues. Let's walk the talk when it comes to menstrual hygiene. Let's show up for our female colleagues, and then also the girl child. And as much as possible, even if you want to reach out and then buy a sanitary pad for persons with disability, I mean, with about 20 cedits, you can actually buy like two pads for them, So it's something that I would encourage every male colleague out there. As much as we want to have fun on weekends and all that, let's try and also um, part way with some little resources to provide menstrual hygiene to persons with disability, and then also share regular information. Let's have open discussions with our female colleagues to understand what it feels like to go through that season, and then what we can do to support them whilst at work, so that they feel included, and they are not left out. And I mean, let's be supportive of our female colleagues at that time of the month, and not just burden them with a lot of workload and all that. Yes, let's just show some love to them during that time of the month. Yeah, so that would be my parting words. And then also for companies out there, it is high time you may want to consider providing emergency sanitary pads and dispensers to your female washrooms to also help, show inclusiveness and the fact that you are also advocating for gender equality and empowerment for the girl, child, and women. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Paul. I really do appreciate your time and coming on board. in having this conversation. Thank you very much. You know what? When you open your own business and you're looking for HR, I'll be at your service because I know I'll be taken care of. It sounds very great. Like, it's like at least, this person would understand me. It's nice to have that sort of assurity, that I don't have to hide, I don't have to be shy. Some women go through a lot during their menses with the cramps and how to handle it, and they just shy because the workplace is not friendly, or is not, the
Yeah.
environment has not been created to be free to express how you feel. So you go through the pain quietly or silently, and it adds to the psychological trauma that we keep saying.
Yeah.
The women that have actually more or less stopped working because of that.
Yeah.
Um, some people go through severe pain. I
Yeah.
know a few people that is really bad. They depend on
Yeah.
painkillers, and some even get admitted to the hospital.
Yeah.
Some bleed more than 7 days, and it's not like light bleed. This is like heavy.
Yeah.
So we go through a lot as women. So do understand, and when is that time, do you know that we're not putting it on, well, at least not all of us.
Yeah.
It is very uncomfortable. It is a lot that our bodies go through,
Yeah.
hence our mood and everything. So kindly bear with us during that time.
And just to add on before you sign off completely, during that time of demand, employers, HR, or employers can actually have women do home office.
Working from
So
home is actually good,
exactly, so they
good,
can
yeah, so
actually
that, yeah,
deal with some of these things personally at home. Yeah.
yeah. That's a good one as well, especially because I mean, since COVID hit, a lot of companies have realized, you don't have to be physically at work,
Physically, yeah.
yeah, to be able,
You probably
especially if your
can
work
work
is
from home.
mostly
Yeah.
done online.
Yeah.
You can still achieve that same goal by being at home
Exactly.
and not physically
Exactly.
being
Yeah.
at the office.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as we're having this conversation, we hope that um, it will get to the right people, and even us as individuals could
Yeah.
start talking to our companies or talking to people, authorities about it, and for
Yeah.
it to get to the right people. And
Yeah.
we were talking about what we can do as individuals. This is one thing that we can do.
Yeah.
Not be shy, and be open to suggest these things to the organization that you work in, and
Yeah.
why they should. So if you
Yeah.
go and you give a good, say, talk or education about
Yeah.
it, that's your quota to having a
Yeah.
solution to all of these
Yeah.
problems that about menstrual health and
Mhm.
menstrual hygiene that we've been talking about. So yeah, thank you very much once again. And this is Efwa, your host from AAA. And thank you all for joining. Thank you, Paul. We will have this conversation on another topic.
Okay.
Thanks very
Yeah.
much for sharing your knowledge with us. And also, if you're an individuals like Paul, they're embarking on, these outreaches by
Yeah.
themselves. Join in, DM them, find ways and means where you can contribute either via donations or even being part of the team.
Yeah.
Collaborations helps for us to reach or make a lot of impact or a bigger impact. So yeah, if you're individual, you're shy to do it by yourself, you don't know where to start, look for individuals like Paul, or look for organizations that are into that, and be a volunteer or be support in any way, shape, or form that you can, and you'll be part of the solution. So
Yeah.
thank you very much. We've taken much of your time, and but it's
Yeah.
been an enjoyable.
I mean, I enjoyed myself, and
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to the subsequent sections as well. I mean, it's been a
yeah,
great time. I like
it's
the
great.
questions that came. I mean, I've learned something new also from
Sure.
our audience. Yes, and also from you, my hosts. And
Thank you. So
yeah,
yeah,
look forward to more collaborations as well.
definitely, definitely. So without wasting much more time, it's bye from us. Thank you very much for listening in. And do not just wait for 28th of May to do
Yeah,
something. It is an ongoing issue. Let's do it. Talk about it every day. Talk about it even when it's not May. Talk about it when the need arise and when it's not, but you feel it needs to be. And we will be here to support you in any way, shape, or form, by advocating with you, so you're not alone. There are a lot of individuals out there that wants to have this conversation, but again, they're shy. But get it started and you will find the right people, just like I found Paul. So yeah, thank you very much and have a good evening
Thank
on
you,
all
sure.
our